Welcome back to The Basement. I'm Steve Lewis. This week, we wind up our look at the third quarter of 1965 with television. Television was changing fast, especially with the premiere of the new TV season in September. There's a lot to get to, so let's get started. This fall, for the first time, instead of rolling out their programs over a few weeks in September and October, all three networks go head-to-head with one big premiere week beginning Monday, September 13th. In contrast to last season, when only a handful of movies and a few TV series, mainly on NBC, were broadcast in color, this season more than half of the TV shows are in color, and of course, people begin buying color sets in bigger numbers than ever before. NBC, who, as we discussed when we talked about 1964, was an early adopter of color, has only 2 black and white shows in its fall lineup. We'll get to those in a minute. Returning ABC shows still in black and white include Peyton Place, Ben Casey, Combat, McHale's Navy, The Fugitive, The Patty Duke Show, Shindig, The Donna Reed Show, and Bewitched. Among notable CBS shows that remain in black and white are Perry Mason, Candid Camera, Rawhide, The Dick Van Dyke Show, The Jackie Gleason Show, Gunsmoke, and pretty much all of their nighttime game shows. By the way, not only is Gilligan's Island on CBS among the many returning shows converting to color this fall, the theme song has also been revised to include The Professor and Mary Ann here on Gilligan's Isle. Knowing that color was coming and that color episodes would be more valuable for later syndicated reruns, The Lucy Show had been filming in color since 1963. In the fall of '65, CBS begins broadcasting The Lucy Show in color for the first time. The show will also undergo a major format change this season. Nearly all the supporting cast is ditched, including longtime sidekick Vivian Vance. Lucy's television kids are shipped off to boarding schools and written out of the show. Lucy Carmichael moves from Danfield, Connecticut to San Francisco, where she again finds work as a bank secretary. In an incredible TV coincidence, her new boss is the same as the old boss, Mr. Mooney, played by Gail Gordon, who is the only supporting cast member retained in the new format. Reportedly, Lucy's production company, Desilu, had a contract with CBS that allowed them to renegotiate in the event of a major format change. With the new format, Desilu is able to demand a much more lucrative deal with CBS. ABC's The Addams Family and CBS's The Munsters both stay in monochrome for their second seasons. Both have settings that lend themselves to black and white. For The Munsters, those who worked on the show say it was already so hot inside the Herman Munster costume that the heat from the additional lights for color filming might have killed Fred Gwynne. A lot of the season's new shows are also in black and white. Notable among the new shows, premiering on Monday, September 13th is NBC's Run for Your Life at 10 p.m. It's from Roy Huggins, who developed the hit series The Fugitive, and stars Ben Gazzara as a man with 2 years to live who decides to spend them traveling around having adventures. When the show ends up running for 3 seasons, he will miraculously live a little longer. Beginning on September 14th, kicking off NBC's Tuesday night lineup is My Mother the Car. Jerry Van Dyke stars as Dave Crabtree, whose mother has been reincarnated as a 1928 porter. Television programs had taken a decided turn toward the weird and the silly in the last couple of years, but this one appeared to be a step too far. Of course, critics hate it. It's widely remembered as one of the dumbest concepts ever greenlit for a series. Nevertheless, it will hang in for 1 full season. Following My Mother the Car on NBC that night is the premiere of the family sitcom Please Don't Eat the Daisies, which is based on the 1960 movie starring Doris Day, and which, in turn, had been based on the book by Gene Carr. It'll do pretty well, hanging in for 2 seasons. Later that same night, over on ABC, comes a new comedy series in black and white set at Fort Courage, an inept U.S. cavalry outpost on the western frontier. It's sort of Sergeant Bilko or McHale's Navy reset to the late 19th century, combined with a slapstick parody of Western movies. It stars Forrest Tucker, Larry Storch, Ken Berry, and Melody Patterson. It runs on Tuesday nights between McHale's Navy and Peyton Place and will last for 2 seasons. On September 15th, kicking off the CBS Wednesday night lineup ahead of the Beverly Hillbillies, is the new series Lost in Space from producer Irwin Allen, who brought us Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea a year earlier. This series is also in cost-saving black and white, though with his usual sense for saving money, Irwin Allen had some of the effect shots filmed in color for effective reuse if and when the show switched over. The show follows the adventures of the Space Family Robinson, a name meant to invoke memories of Disney's 1960 hit film Swiss Family Robinson. The Robinsons' futuristic 1997 flight to colonize a planet around Alpha Centauri is sabotaged by accidental stowaway Dr. Zachary Smith, leaving them stranded on an unknown planet. It's hardly sterling science fiction, but is pretty good by television standards, and in the first season, there's some atmospheric and dramatic storytelling. The series stars the former Zorro, Guy Williams, and the former Mom on Lassie, June Lockhart. The tone and focus of the series will change significantly over its 3-year run. And if you're in doubt about angels being real, right after the premiere of Lost in Space that night over on ABC comes Gidget, based on the successful film series and starring newcomer Sally Field as Frances Gidget Lawrence and Don Porter as her father, Russell Lawrence. It's a series that might have had a chance if ABC hadn't scheduled it opposite the Beverly Hillbillies. The Hillbillies weren't quite the powerhouse they had been a few years earlier, but they were still immensely popular. Under the circumstances, Gidget will only last one season. Following Gidget that night is the premiere of The Big Valley. Western series generally didn't have the kind of popularity they'd enjoyed a few years earlier, but the networks were still trying. Several new Western series will fail this season. The Big Valley is sort of a Bonanza knockoff, featuring film star Barbara Stanwyck as matriarch Victoria Barkley and Richard Long as her oldest son Jared. This is one new Western series that will find an audience, running until 1969. Meanwhile, opposite the Big Valley, back over on CBS, comes Green Acres. It isn't a Beverly Hillbillies spin-off exactly, but it is from the same production company and at least sometimes takes place in the same universe as the Beverly Hillbillies and Petticoat Junction, and sometimes characters from each of the series will appear in one or both of the others. The premise is a reverse Beverly Hillbillies with a city slicker lawyer and his elegant wife relocating to the country to take up farming. It stars Ava Gabor as Lisa Douglas and Eddie Albert as her husband, Oliver Wendell Douglas. It runs between the Beverly Hillbillies and the Dick Van Dyke Show. It'll be another hit for CBS and for the Hillbillies franchise, running until 1971. Premiering Wednesday at 10 p.m. over on NBC is I Spy, a light drama espionage series capitalizing on the spy craze, starring Robert Culp and Bill Cosby as secret agents who travel the world posing as tennis pros. It'll be a hit for NBC, running for 3 seasons. ABC's popular music showcase Shindig had gone from a 30-minute show in the fall of '64 to a 1-hour show in January of '65. Beginning Thursday, September 16th, it becomes 2 30-minute shows. One kicking off ABC's Thursday night lineup against the Munsters on CBS and Daniel Boone on NBC. The other kicks off ABC's Saturday night lineup opposite established series The Jackie Gleason Show and Flipper. Premiering on NBC on Thursday, September 16th at 8:30 is Laredo, a light drama western about a group of Texas Rangers. It'll be moderately successful, running for 2 seasons. Much more successful for NBC will be The Dean Martin Show, a musical comedy variety series which premieres at 10 p.m. that night. Dean typically spends only 1 day in rehearsal and is obviously unprepared, which becomes part of the show's appeal. It's clear that he's reading from cue cards and seems to have little idea what'll happen next. Viewers debate whether he's actually drunk or just very relaxed. In any case, he appears to be having a very good time, which is appealing. The show will get great ratings in some seasons and run until 1974. With westerns seeming to fade and the secret agent genre growing strong, CBS finds a happy medium with The Wild Wild West, premiering Friday, September 17th at 7:30 p.m. It stars Robert Conrad as Secret Service agent James West and Ross Martin as his partner sidekick Artemis Gordon, a specialist in disguises. It'll run for 4 seasons. Like some other shows here, its tone will get broader and wilder as it goes. It's another new CBS show in black and white this season. Following the Wild Wild West is Hogan's Heroes. Setting a sitcom in a German World War II prisoner of war camp was controversial. CBS did what they could to address concerns that they were trying to make being a prisoner of the Third Reich seem fun and move forward. Looking back, I can understand how seeing the clever Allies outsmart the bumbling Germans every week would have appealed to Americans, many of whom had vivid memories of the war that had ended only 20 years earlier. It'll end up the highest-rated new program of the fall, ending the 1965-66 television season at number 9. Up against the second half hour of the Wild Wild West over on ABC is Tammy. Like their Gidget series, it was a teen or at least young adult show based on a successful film series. Tammy stars Debbie Watson, Karen of last year's Karen series, in the title role. It runs on Fridays between the Flintstones and the Addams Family. It won't even do as well as Gidget, lasting only until July. Following the Addams Family on ABC Friday nights is Honey West, starring Anne Francis as a fightin', swingin' private eye who comes across as a female version of James Bond. Her assistant, Sam Bolt, is played by John Erickson. She also has a pet ocelot named Bruce. Honey West will last 1 season. Premiering on Saturday, September 18th after the returning Flipper on NBC at 8 p.m. is I Dream of Jeannie, starring Larry Hagman as Anthony Nelson, an astronaut, and Barbara Eden as a genie whose bottle he finds on a beach after a mission. Despite his discomfort, she insists that he is her master after he frees her from the bottle. It's clearly NBC's knockoff of ABC's successful series Bewitched, but with the added twist that, unlike Darren and Samantha Stevens, Tony and Jeannie aren't married. It'll work, and the show will run until 1970. Apart from another new series, Convoy, that will only last until December, this is the only show in NBC's fall lineup to be broadcast in black and white. Premiering right after Jeannie that night is a half-hour spy show parody starring Don Adams as Maxwell Smart, bumbling Agent 86 of Control, Barbara Feldon as super competent Agent 99, and Edward Platt as their chief and straight man, usually on the receiving end of unintended aggravation from Max. The series was created by Mel Brooks and Buck Henry and executive producer Leonard Stern. Along with Hogan's Heroes, it'll be one of the few successful sitcoms not set around a domestic situation. At its best, Get Smart will also be one of the truly funny shows on TV, one of the rare ones that could actually make you laugh. Even the recurring gag lines like, "Would you believe?" and "Missed it by that much" actually work better because of the repetition. Personally, I never got tired of the cone of silence gag. No matter how many times they did it, there was something about 2 grown men with this ridiculous thing over their heads yelling what at each other across a table that never failed to crack me up. Get Smart will run until 1970. On Sunday, September 19th, following the returning Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea on ABC, comes the premiere of The FBI, an hour-long crime drama starring Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. as Inspector Louis Erskine. The show was produced with cooperation from J. Edgar Hoover, the director of the FBI. At the end of some episodes, the photos and descriptions of real-life fugitives from the FBI will be broadcast, with Zimbalist providing narration. It'll become one of ABC's most successful shows, running until 1974. Less successful new shows include The Legend of Jesse James, A Man Called Shenandoah, OK Crackerby and the Long Hot Summer on ABC, John Forsythe, Mona McCluskey, Camp Runaround, Hank, Convoy, Mr. Roberts and the Wackiest Ship in the Army on NBC, and The Steve Lawrence Show, Trials of O'Brien and The Loner on CBS. Another miss for CBS is The Smothers Brothers Show, a sitcom starring the successful nightclub comedians. Tom Smothers is an angel sent back to Earth on probation, and Dick Smothers is a publishing agent forced to share an apartment with his late brother. It'll last one season. CBS will try again with the Smothers Brothers in a different format later on. Of course, there are some notable new Saturday morning kids shows as well. Premiering on NBC on September 9th, just ahead of the returning Underdog, are two new comic anthropomorphic crime fighters, Secret Squirrel and Up and Adam, Adam Ant. On September 25th, the Beatles cartoon series begins on ABC. It's from Hanna-Barbera Productions, responsible for many animated series in the 60s, including the Flintstones. It features original Beatles songs with John and George's speaking voices by Paul Frees and Paul and Ringo by Lance Percival. The show is certainly nothing special, even by mid-60s Saturday morning standards, and the voices, especially John, who sounds a little like Anthony Newley, and George, who sounds kind of like Peter Lorre, are way off. Nevertheless, the series is an immediate hit. By November 6th, Billboard magazine will be reporting that Hanna-Barbera is already planning another rock cartoon series. They have already spoken with the Beach Boys, Herman's Hermits, and Gary Lewis and the Playboys about being the central characters in the series, but because of demanding schedules, finances, and outside obligations, none of the groups could fit into this project. Of course, a cartoon series wouldn't really demand anything of the featured group. The Beatles' management had notoriously underpriced their licensing in the American market. I'm guessing that the Beatles' likenesses were surprisingly inexpensive to license for the series, and that Hanna-Barbera found out that other groups couldn't be had as cheaply. The Beatles series will run until 1967. On October 6th comes another series trading on the ongoing monster craze, Milton the Monster on ABC, between Bugs Bunny and the returning Hoppity Hopper. Between programs, you might have caught commercials for two new breakfast cereals from Quaker Oats. Quisp and Quake were advertised together, and it was all about the rivalry between the two as to which had the best cereal. Both were made from the same stuff. The difference was that Quisp, who was a space alien, had little concave bowls of saucer-shaped cereal, and Quake, who was a miner, had cereal shaped like rocks. You could choose Quisp for quasi energy or Quake for earthquake power. Like Cap'n Crunch cereal, which had arrived 2 years earlier, the commercials were by J. Ward Productions, most famous for the Rocky and Bullwinkle show. My firm favorite was Quisp. I liked the character better, and Quake's rock-shaped pieces were too rough on the top of my mouth. It'll turn out that I'm not alone. Quisp will be far more popular than Quake. In 1969, Quake will be rebranded, transforming the Spokes character from a miner into a sort of cowboy who eventually morphs into an Australian. In 1972, Quaker Oats will encourage viewers to vote on whether to keep Quisp or Quake. Undoubtedly, the result was a foregone conclusion. Quake will be discontinued in 1973. Quisp will carry on for years and was still being produced occasionally as recently as the late 2010s. All in all, 1965 is a pretty good year for breakfast cereals. Also introduced are Apple Jacks and Honeycomb. And that brings us at last to the end of the very eventful summer of 1965. I hope you join me next week when we begin wrapping up the year with the months of October, November, and December. Meanwhile, thanks for watching. Have a great week. Bye.